Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and let me start you out with this. I can't remember if I ever showed you part of this video. Watch this.
Look at how Russia started stockpiling gold over the last 20 years, while the United States went further and further into debt and printing money. Just look at this chart. This is gold. Astonishing. And this was all happening right out there in the open. Here is a headline 2 years before the war with Ukraine broke out. China and Russia ditched dollar and moved toward financial alliance. Yeah, and everyone else was ignoring it. And we've had some recent dollar strengthening a little bit, but that's peanuts compared to what's actually happening, because these BRICS nations have been in the midst of a 20-year plan to de-dollarize. De-dollarize. Even before the Ukraine conflict started, both China and Russia were stockpiling gold and working on denominating transactions outside of the United States dollar. It was another secret that was all right there out in the open for anyone to pay attention to. This is a massive challenge to the US dollar, which isn't based on gold or anything. If you've been watching my channel for any length of time, you know that it's based on air. Nothing.
That's why the Digital Asset Investor has as a sponsor Glint. Remember, I have a Glint account with gold in it, where I bought gold in it, that's spendable gold with my MasterCard debit card, and I buy physical gold. It's one of the things that I'm accumulating. Now, Digital Perspectives, Brad Combs was on with BitBoy, and I could not believe that he had the gall to wildly speculate like this, but he talks XRP pre-allocation theory to central banks. Listen to this.
And it is speculative, right? But it is like an ultimate goal kind of thing. And if you think about the idea of bridge work, or XRP working as a bridge currency in the respect that you just described, like I said, if every country's holding a little bit of it, or their central banks already holding some of it, this gets quite interesting too, because if you go into that summary judgment, they have pre-allocated contracts, but we don't know exactly how many and to whom. Mm-hmm. And there's lots of speculation about who those pre-allocated contracts of XRP could be to. And it gets quite interesting if we get clarity, and then aliens? We find out. What's that?
Or some of these contracts could possibly aliens?
Well, how about central banks?
Oh, right? Okay. Well, those are people. Okay.
Yeah, those are people too, but certainly aliens there for sure, because they just look at us like cattle, right? But if those things come to light and we learn those things, it makes so much sense how XRP could sit as a bridge currency and serve to unlock dormant dollars around the world, but never threaten any one country's money at the same time.
Yeah, I think that's a fascinating argument. I think ultimately it aligns with the wholesale CBD narrative that I've been told a long time ago, where things are going. That when I started kind of looking into XRP and giving it a fair shot, that was some stuff that came to me that was like, oh, that actually makes sense.
Things he was told. Okay, now I want to show you this. CryptoCon SBF embezzled billions for Democrat donations in real estate, begs for bail because he's a depressed vegan. Harry Plotter. That's pretty funny. Then you got this bombshell report. Federal authorities confirm SBF diverted FTX customer funds into donations to political campaigns. I think these people are about to have to give some of that money back. Now, this is the same guy. I'm drawing a blank on his name, but now you got Fox News people starting to figure out what Gary Gensler's been up to. Watch this.
This story has been going on for many months. You remember the collapse of Terra Luna and a bunch of crypto lending platforms. Well, it looks like in the last few days, this is all interconnected. This is a very...
So under your watch, Mr. Gensler, one of the largest crypto collapses, Terra Luna, happened months before this. And they're connected? It looks like now they were connected? Why didn't you stop it? If you have the wait a minute.
Folks, this is where the smoke is. You know what I'm talking about? this FTX thing, it's almost like it was a vehicle put in motion by people. And I don't think it's Sam Bankman-Fried that put it in motion.
You're telling us, but we don't have no evidence of that. So when...
Remember, in the SEC filing against FTX, it says that they've been doing this for 2 years. It's been a fraud for 2 years in their filing.
You guys didn't investigate that, and that happened on your watch. So what the hell?
All right, I was just going to play you that part. Now, here is Tom Emmer. Now, Tom Emmer was in the hearings was asking the guy that's in charge of FTX, are you going to give us any documentation and emails and stuff like that from Gary Gensler? Here's where he says that. And then I added the Thinking Crypto interview with J.W. Verrett because I wanted to remind Tom Emmer, listen, J.W. Verrett said he hears that they're communicating, that the people at the SEC are also using Signal and WhatsApp to communicate. So make sure you address that too, Tom.
Will you commit to sharing with this committee any internal documents you come across regarding communication between FTX and Mr. Gensler or others at the SEC?
We'll fully cooperate, with the committee and the regulatory authorities with respect to our investigation.
Again, specifically, I just want copies that this committee will want copies of those communications to the extent they exist.
We can certainly work with your staff to get you what you need.
Thank you.
Let me tell you, the subpoenas are going to fly over to Gary Gensler. So he needs to be ready for that. And hopefully that will keep some of the excesses that we've seen at the SEC in check.
Yeah, interesting point you bring up, because I interviewed Congressman Tom Emmer multiple times, and he gave a kind of a famous line, I believe a month or two ago, where he said a new day is coming, and he was talking to the SEC enforcement director, and kind of alluding to potentially Republicans, winning the midterms, and then he said having the gavel, they will have the gavel in their hands to then keep regulators like Gary Gensler in check.
Yeah, and there's a few things they can do. One is oversight, subpoenas of emails and such. Unfortunately, what we've heard is that there are staff at the SEC that are using apps like Signal and WhatsApp, like we do, to try to keep our communications private. They're doing the same thing to keep them private from congressional oversight. Now, if they're doing that from a just government ethics and oversight perspective, it's illegal.
It's illegal. Now, I totally agree with Cynthia Loomis here.
We're conflating topics today.
Look, Gary and friends, Elizabeth Warren, Brad Sherman, all of those people that are trying to kill crypto, what they're doing, and Gary Gensler's friends, what they're doing is they're also trying to bring in movie stars and actors to carry their narrative. I believe that that's also what Kim Kardashian was about. I believe, if you remember, Kanye West said that when he was married to Kim Kardashian, she literally was on the phone with, the woman who ran for president and her husband was president that I don't talk about on this channel. She was actually had her cell phone number programmed in. Now we know that Gary was having meetings with George Soros and the woman whose name we don't mention on this channel. So that's one degree of separation here. Are you telling me that the woman whose name we don't mention on this channel is not in touch with Gary about, hey, here's Kim Kardashian. You can use her to get what you want here. Are you telling me that didn't go on? I bet dimes to donuts it went on. And that's why he wanted to hide the meeting, folks. One of the many reasons he wanted to hide the meeting.
Digital assets are not on trial. Fraud and organizations are on trial. So let's separate digital assets from corrupt organizations. FTX.
Okay. And she goes on to talk about how FTX is a fraud. That's what they're trying to do, is they're trying to get Gensler's buddies and Elizabeth Warren and all them. They're trying to make FTX the same as digital assets. In other words, FTX, which is a fraud, is digital assets. It's because of digital assets. No. You could have committed that fraud just like Gary Gensler's buddy John Corzine at MF Global, right under Gary's nose when he was at the CFTC. Or did he know about that too?
Mortgages? Of course not. commodity brokerage firm run by former New Jersey Senator John Corzine collapsed after customer funds. Brokerage firm run by former New Jersey Senator John Corzine collapsed after customer.
Right. So Senator Toomey is throwing that out in Gary's face, is why he made that comment, because that also was on Gary Gensler's watch, and John Corzine at MF Global was also commingling funds. That was on Gary Gensler's watch too. At some point, you have to start asking, did Gary Gensler know about all these things going on? Was he somehow involved in it? At some point, somebody's going to start asking those kind of questions, because he obviously knew about FTX, and he had to know about, I'm assuming that he knew about some things about MF Global. What in the world's going on with this guy, folks? Maybe he didn't know about MF Global. Then you've got this guy carrying his own narrative, which the narrative that Kevin O'Leary is going with now is he's not saying FTX was fraudulent. He's saying that there was a war between Binance and FTX, and the Binance guy won the war. Watch this.
Why do you believe FTX failed? I have an opinion. I don't have the records. Here it is. These two behemoths that own the unregulated market together and grew these incredible businesses in terms of growth were at war with each other. And one put the other out of business intentionally. Now, maybe there's nothing wrong with that. Maybe there's nothing wrong with love and war. But Binance is a massive, unregulated global monopoly now. They put FTX out of business.
You poor guy. Does anybody listen to him anymore? Okay, then you have Elizabeth Warren, and she's, of course, trying to use this to destroy crypto. She's never, well, let me say it another way. Elizabeth Warren is never letting a crisis go to waste. And my question is, did the SEC and Gary Gensler help create this crisis?
So, Mr. O'Leary, I know that you are
by
a big
the way,
supporter of crypto.
I totally am in agreement with Kevin O'Leary. I'm glad he went after her.
Even after you lost $10 million in FTX's collapse. But you are an experienced investor. So let me ask you, do you believe that the potential benefits of crypto are so promising that we should accept weaker anti-money laundering rules and weaker compliance from crypto firms than we require from banks, from brokers, and from Western Union?
No, I think we should apply the same regulatory structure that we apply to existing trading of stocks and bonds on exchanges tied to broker-dealers. That is not complicated. It's already been implemented in other countries. And so, and I take issue, Senator, with your concept that it makes it easier to do money laundering. Currencies have been used for drug trafficking since the 60s in the American dollar, when it was thrown out of a Piper aircraft in a duffel bag. The American dollar is also used by bad actors all the time.
Mr. O'Leary, I appreciate your point that everyone tries to engage in money laundering. That's what terrorists do. That's what drug dealers do. And that's what states like Iran and North Korea have done. The only point I'm trying to make is, should the same rules against money laundering apply to crypto in the way that they apply?
Okay, enough of her. I can't hardly listen to her. I'm not going to play this whole thing. I just want to make the point here. This guy is an actor. His name is Ben McKenzie. He was on the OC. My wife and I watched him on the OC. So I think it was the first acting gig he had, or first major one anyway. And we used to watch that. But these actors, half the time, they have to come and stick their nose where it doesn't belong. And this guy is very obviously carrying a narrative, but you don't have to take my word for it, because I can prove it. If you watch the video of him, it's literally like, he's like this anti-crypto guy that's been created or sent. Look at this. Wheezy found this. Looks like he's very fond of Gary Gensler. So it turns out Ben McKenzie went to Gary Gensler's online MIT course. McKenzie attributes his initial interest in the subject to his undergraduate degree in economics and friends' interest in cryptocurrency, as well as coursework on the blockchain from MIT professor and SEC chairman Gensler. And I decided to go and look at Ben McKenzie's Twitter profile, and you'll never guess Who's in the picture with him on the Twitter profile? Yes, that would be Sam Bankman-Fried, and you cannot make this stuff up. But we're not done yet. I thought I would at least ask Ben McKenzie, hey man, since you attended Gary's class, do you know where class 18 is? We're looking for it. Help us out, Ben. And then there's this. I just couldn't let it go. More Bitcoin maxis. This is that Natalie Brunell. This is the one that was on the show with Maria Bartiromo, who would not tell me whether or not she had heard anything about a settlement or the ending of the Ripple lawsuit. Remember Maria Bartiromo had her on her show, and she said, yeah, so you're expecting a settlement with Ripple tomorrow, right? And ever since then, we haven't heard a word. There was no retraction. There was no nothing. Well, here they are, a couple Bitcoin maxis, and they're just so glad to have a conversation about who Satoshi Nakamoto is. So I said, look, the U.S. government, you don't have to take my word for it. It's right here in the video. Homeland Security, U.S. government knows exactly who the 4 Satoshis are. My question is, why are none of these Bitcoin maxis? Look, you're going to put your money in it. If you know that someone knows who it is, it can bring all of it crumbling down. You need to demand to know. You should be on the phone to Homeland Security. I have to know who these 4 Satoshis are, because it could potentially ruin my investment in Bitcoin. If you guys one day woke up and decided, hey, let's tell everybody who the 4 Satoshis are, it would completely undermine the status that Bitcoin has, undeservedly so, in my opinion, gotten as a commodity. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, and tell your friends and family that I just can't tolerate this kind of blatant ignoring of things right in front of your face that these people do. And I'm not going to let it go.